Everybody in? Okay. So, I want to talk to you tonight about true devotion. And I was told a true story about true devotion recently. And it touched me so much that I want to share it with everybody. And devotion comes in many varieties. Recently I was struck because LeBron James returned back to Cleveland because he's so devoted to the city of Cleveland after he made those millions in Miami. He's back. But that's not the kind of devotion I'm talking about. I'm talking more about the devotion of a sacrificial variety. For example, a nun who moves to Calcutta and devotes her life to feeding the poor. Or a captain who dives on a grenade to save the lives of his troops. This kind of devotion. But the particular story that I heard is about devotion to one special person. And the way that I heard this story was interesting. I was in Paris about a month ago, and I was on vacation. And I was shopping, and I actually got these clothes in Chinatown in Paris. And, I happened to stumble into this tea shop. And there was this little old couple in there. They both must have been at least 80 years old. Just a cute little old couple. And they had been married over 50 years, they told me. And when they looked at each other, their eyes still sparkled with that twinkle of the people who are truly in love. And they asked me what I was doing there. I said I was on vacation. And they said, "Oh, do you have a girlfriend?" And I said, "I do, but she couldn't come with me because she's studying." And they said, "Oh, you devoted to her?"
Gracias.
And I said, "I think so." And he said, "If you don't know for sure, you're not devoted." And they proceeded to tell me this true story about devotion. And the story centered around two friends who had grown up together. They were neighbors, Frankie and Gabriella. And they had been through some really hard times together. When Frankie was 8, his father was sent to war and had been killed. And so Gabriella had laid outside of his front door every night, sleeping, just in case he needed to talk. And she stayed there for 2 or 3 months like that. And then later on, Frankie returned the favor for Gabriella by bringing her fresh-cut flowers every night for 6 months until she stopped crying. And this really touched me. And the devotion continued as they grew older. And even when she was taken from him by some forces that were much stronger than Frankie, he developed these almost superhuman powers in order to get her back. And he developed this ability to see things that are invisible to those who are not truly devoted. And so the true story goes like this. There was once a great city, above which were 2 invisible clouds. On the white cloud lived the gods, and on the green cloud lived the aliens. And the aliens, like all aliens, wanted to enslave the humans and attack the gods. And below, in the town, was born a very special baby. And this baby had great powers bestowed on it by the gods, because the baby was completely pure. It was a combination of nature and nurture. The parents were just that perfect. And the mother, she set the baby down to rest for the evening. The baby fell asleep instantly. She turned out the light. And just then, the shutters of the room were blown open, and the curtains flapped violently in the breeze. And a cold breeze brushed over the body of the baby. And he woke up. And just as he was about to cry, a black gloved hand shot down towards the mouth of the baby, trying to shut it up when, ah! The hand was burned red. and the creature ran from the window, jumped, ran across the lawn. And the mother came inside and grabbed the baby. She saw the figure running across the lawn, and she fell down to her knees, and she let out a prayer to the gods for help. And the prayer rose up like a comet, like a flare, a fireball that could fly. And it rose up so high until it was caught by the winged messenger of the gods, who flew to the white cloud. On the white cloud, the goddess, the creator, held court with all the head gods. And the messenger burst into the room, not even bothering to knock, and thrust the prayer in her face, and she took it gently. She read the prayer. She set it down. She asked all the gods, she said, "Does not this baby have its own defenses?" And all said, "I think so, yes. There's a purity force." And the messenger wasn't having it. He said, "No." He said, "You are all aware that if a human were to betray this baby to the aliens, the force field would be rendered useless." Oh, is that true? I mean, what is it? Okay, and the goddess stopped all the conversations and said, "Fine, winged messenger, you shall go to the earth. You shall take the baby and bring it to the human guardians, and they will transport the baby to the mountains where it will be safe." Well, he grumbled. He wanted war with the aliens, but he always obeyed his orders. And so he flew back down to the earth. Meanwhile, at the very same time, in another part of the city, Frankie was at the temple to pray. You see, today, Frankie was 18 years old. And like all 18-year-old boys, he had to go to the temple to ask the gods about his future, about his destiny, what lay in store for him. But he had one small problem. All he could think about was Gabriella and how he was in love with her and he'd never told her. And so he was thinking about her beautiful hair and how yesterday she'd been hanging up the laundry behind her pink house in a pink dress. And he thought about her laugh and all the wonderful times that they'd shared together. And so when he knelt down to pray, all he could think about was Gabriella, Gabriella, Gabriella. And so when he went to pray about his future, all he could say was, "Gods, if you help me win the heart of Gabriella, I promise I'll be good for the rest of my life." And the prayer was like a fireball. It was beautiful. It was blue and white and red and yellow. And it flew up to the sky. But as it flew, an ugly green bird rose from the roof of the temple and took the prayer, stole it, and flew to the green cloud. On the green cloud lived the Lord of the aliens. The Lord of the aliens took the prayer from the green bird. He read it and put it down. He realized he'd found his mole, his Judas, in Frankie. "Bring me the girl." And the green bird squashed with delight and flew back down to the earth. Where Gabriella was now plucking down the clothes from the line that she'd held up yesterday and put up yesterday. And she was happy. She was singing a little song. The birds were flying around, the sky was blue, and she was young and pure and wholesome. And so, as Frankie came up, his heart started to beat out of his chest, because today was the day he was going to ask her to the dance. The gods had heard his prayer, so he thought now was as good a time as any. But he was a little nervous because, well, you see, as they'd grown older, Gabriella had grown so beautiful, but Frankie hadn't grown up so big and strong as he had hoped. And so he just didn't know if she saw him in that way. There was one thing that Frankie knew how to do better than anyone else in the world. He could make her laugh. And so he told her, like he did every day, his best joke. He said, "Gabriella, what's a cat's favorite color?" "Purple." And she laughed. And he felt so warm inside that he could make her feel like that. He said, "Now's my chance. So, Gabriella," he played it kind of cool, "you think maybe you'd want to go to the dance with me?" She looked down. Her eyes got as big as saucers. Why, he'd never asked her to a dance before their whole lives. But as she looked down, Frankie got nervous because, well, why hadn't she said yes yet? Maybe the gods didn't hear his prayer. And then she looked up at him and said, "Frankie, I've been waiting my whole life for you to ask me to a dance. Of course I'll go with you." He wanted to jump up into the sky. He was so happy. And their eyes locked. And they exchanged that twinkle that only the truly devoted have. And just as Frankie reached out his hand for hers and her for his, the green, ugly bird squawked its way down and plucked Gabriella up and towards the green cloud. And Frankie cried, "No!" But what he saw stunned him. Because first he just saw her body rise up into the sky. But then appeared this green, ugly bird. And then appeared this green, ugly cloud that he'd never seen before. How could he not have noticed this green cloud above the mountain, above the radio antenna? He didn't understand, but he knew that he had to get up there. But he was only a boy. How could he get all the way up there? So he had to think. On the green cloud, the Lord of the aliens stared down at the little earthling, Gabriella. And she looked up at him defiantly and she said, "He's coming for me!" And he just smiled. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." "Hook her up to the machine!" And the green bird complied and took her. Well, Frankie, he didn't waste any time. And so he ran, and he ran, and he ran up the mountain. And then he decided to climb over the fence. And he got onto the antenna. And he climbed up the antenna tower. And then he got to that skinny part of the antenna that's just really high. And he shimmied up that part. And when he got up there, he was hanging on with his legs. And he grabbed onto the cloud. And to his surprise, there were handholds in the cloud. He didn't pull himself up. He pulled himself up. And he pulled himself up. And he was up on top. And he got onto the top of the cloud. Which was not a cloud at all, but an alien spacecraft! And there were all kinds of little orbs and little flying ships flying around and pilots running in and out. And so Frankie spied a place where all the pilots were getting into their flight gear. So he ran over there, and he put on a helmet and a parachute, and he looked like a pilot. And so he was able to search and search and search all through the ship. Until finally, he came to the bridge of the ship. And there was the captain's chair. And the captain's chair swiveled around, and it was Gabriella. And she explained to Frankie that this was a test. It was true love and devotion for her, and he had passed. And that the gods had brought him here. And because he was good and had promised to be good, they had a special mission for him. He was to save a baby that was going to be murdered by some evil humans. Frankie agreed right away. He would do anything for her. And so the next thing he knew, Frankie was up on the mountaintop, and he saw the monks march in procession with the baby. They had hoods on. They were chanting a very strange tune. And Frankie knew what he must do. His best kung fu moves. And so, he got the baby. And so he ran, and he ran, and he ran. But one of them was just as fast as he was, and they caught him by the leg, and the baby went flying. Just about to hit a rock when the baby was caught by Gabriella. Well, thanks, Frankie. Now we can enslave your entire race and finally attack the gods! And she disappeared. Frankie, he looked at the faces of those monks who had taken off their hoods, and they were just normal people just like him. And he knew that that couldn't be the real Gabriella. And he just hoped and prayed to the gods that she was still alive. He was so sad. So he asked the gods again for help. Gods, I'm really sorry. Please, help me make things right. Help me find the baby. And help me find Gabriella. And he shot off another prayer. And for the first time in his life, Frankie saw his own prayer. It was beautiful. It was like a comet with a tail, but it was rainbow colored. And it flew up to the sky, and the ugly green bird was there, and tried to grab it, but it was too fast. And it flew up and up until it was collected by the winged messenger of the gods, who flew up to the white cloud with Frankie's prayer. Now Frankie, seeing if he could shoot one prayer, maybe he could do another. And he started to shoot, shooting fireballs out of his mouth. And he thought, well, what if I can catch one? And he said, whoa! And he was able to fly. And so, and he flew that way, all the way up to the green cloud. And as he landed, the white-winged messenger appeared down behind him. And they shared a look. And Frankie said, come on, we got to find Gabriella. And so they looked, and they looked, and they looked all over the ship. Until finally, they came to the prison room. And there, in a chair, was Gabriella tied up. And just as Frankie was about to go over and rescue her, he heard,
no, Frankie, it's a trap!
And there was another Gabriella, just exactly the same. How could he know which one was the real one? He thought, I'll do what I do better than anyone else in the world. Gabriella, how many tickles does it take to make an octopus laugh? 10 tickles. And he heard it, the real laugh of Gabriella. And so he ran to her and grabbed her by the hand. And the winged messenger went and stalked menacingly towards the fake Gabriella. And so together, Frankie and Gabriella, they looked, and they looked, and they looked all over the ship until finally they found the green ugly bird about to fly off the edge of the ship with the baby. And so Frankie shot a fireball out of his mouth, boom, and hit him. Ah! And he fell to the ground, but the baby went flying. And was caught, this time by the real Gabriella. And so Frankie grabbed her and said, come on, let's go. And he took her to the edge of the green cloud. He pulled the parachute and they jumped off. And they landed softly near her. They presented the baby back to the mother, who was so grateful. And the guardians, well, they saw that Frankie had redeemed himself, and they all knelt down in gratitude to him. And Frankie, he bowed to them. And Gabriella grabbed him by the hand and she said, come on, let's go. And so, as the winged messengers were finishing off the battle above, Frankie and Gabriella walked home, and they didn't even notice. And so, that's the true story of true devotion that I heard. And it makes me wonder about that old couple in the tea shop. What is this invisible world that they get to see that I haven't seen yet? I don't know about you, but I'm going to find out. More tea, help yourself.